Yeah, again, and it's kind of funny. So I'm trying to not be the center of attention while I'm staring at this camera and creating content that makes me the center of attention. But I'm thinking about that solo that's happening, and it's funny. I'm listening a lot to the drums, which are, kind of funny because it's a programmed track or whatever. But a lot of the things, if I play the right sort of comping rhythms, it makes those drums make sense because they're programmed to do pretty standard things in this swing context. And ultimately it's a ride cymbal. The snare's doing a thing too, obviously, and there's some fills that are whatever. But that ride cymbal is pretty good in the sense that it's perfect tempo-wise, which is nice. So yeah, let's see what else. Voicings, and I think I'm very aware of where things are on those middle two strings on the guitar, like where the guide tones are. And if I were called upon, I could definitely play the whole song with just those middle two strings, and I remember working on that. Sometimes I just add to that. I think Fred Hamilton and other people called those like shell voicings. If I combine that with the root, that's just the root, the third, and the seven. And a lot of the time, if I'm playing duo, which I do a lot in lessons, obviously, I'm actually basically doing that, putting the root usually down on the 7th string. Because in a lot of contexts, you want to play the root because there's no bass player, obviously, so you have to fill a little more space. A lot more space than you would when there's a rhythm section. But with duo guitar, it's a little bit, not to jump around on topics, but it's a little, I try to stay down here in a lower range because if I play too many of these type voicings, I feel like I get in the way of the soloist and the register of the soloist. So I'll stay down here, those shell voicings, that brings to mind, I'm jumping around a little bit, but this is all very relevant. I spent a lot of years in New Orleans playing rhythm guitar in the sense of swing, but not modern jazz style, more, and I wouldn't even necessarily call it traditional jazz, because it's more like swing guitar, where I would play these type of voicings where I'd have a third and a 7 on the middle two strings, or sometimes a 6, third and a 6, and then I would play rhythm quarter notes, with the pick, So if I was playing "What Is This Thing Called Love" and there's a bass player, I might go like. Again, I've got the third and the 7 on those middle strings, and there's also some inversions. So like that first chord, G minor 7 flat 5, I can play it right here with G, F, and B flat. And then this is kind of an inversion of it, where I've got B flat, G, and D flat. So I've got the third in the bass, the root, the flat 5. Then here, look, I've got the flat 5, the third, and the 7. And then these shapes recur a lot. So this could also be, right here, this could be a D flat major, because I got D flat, the 6 right here, B flat, and F, the major third. I can make it a major 7. And this could be an inversion of that. I've got F, the third of D flat, the root, A flat. And this could be another inversion where it looks like an A flat major. If this is the root, it's an A flat 6, but if this is the 5th, I got the 5th of D flat, the 3rd, and the major 7. There's a lot of voicings. I would use this a lot as a minor because I wanted the 5th string to be a percussive note, and then I could keep things consistent, you know, with the rhythm. That could be C minor 6, or just C minor. There's so many, and then this is F7, or C minor 6, the same thing. Like this could also be like an F7, F major. Just different inversions, and I use those a lot. And if I'm called upon to add to it, I can put notes on top. But that's kind of like I said, I'm jumping around a little bit but that informs my comping in a duo setting a lot. If I want to go to a 4/4 feel and I don't want to like walk bass, which is the funny story about that. I used to, in New Orleans, you know, I had these gigs because I had the 7th string, and I felt like it was sort of expected that I would walk the bass, and sometimes they wouldn't hire a bass player, and my job was just be there and, like, you know, do the chords and the bass so they could save some money. They didn't pay me double though, or even 1.5. But I remember being in New York and learning, kind of picking up pretty quickly. Luckily, people were just very direct, and they were like, "Don't do that." There was a little bit of a vibe at first, and mercifully, people were like, "Stop doing that walking bass thing." I remember Peter Bernstein told me to stop, and thank you, Peter. And it's just funny how sometimes, like in different regions, certain things are considered corny or unhip. But I understand the idea that trying to walk bass, it's like just doesn't sound as good on guitar, and it's a little hokey. I guess technically it's kind of fun to know how to do, but I wish someone had told me earlier. But if I want to get a 4/4 style, I'll go to that rhythm thing, I might go to that, or I might do a similar thing, I don't feel as bad if I'm playing roots in 4/4 but not walking the bass, just having the bass be there. I feel like that's okay. Maybe it's not. If I attach a note to it, I feel like I'm not actually walking the bass. Play some tenths. Again, this is for like a duo guitar, or if I were playing with a horn or something, just me. There's no bass, no drums. That's a whole bunch of information about how I think about comping. Let's do one more thing, or at least another thing about a ballad, because I feel like different tempos call for slightly different approaches. So here's a little track of Body and Soul with I'm going to take a little sip though, y'all, and I encourage you, have a little coffee. Or whatever you're sipping on. So let's see what happens when I play Body and Soul on here. Again, I'll try to think that there's the solo, this is the solo part, and that we haven't gone to double time on a ballad, which I hate that. So, Body and Soul. Not to overplay, imagine someone playing a solo. Maybe they go instead of diminished. was using a lot of fragments of chords. I don't think that I'm inventing any new voicings, but sometimes I'm just playing 3 notes, a bass, sort of a low, middle, and high note, and trying to voice lead at least one of them, maybe 2 or 3, maybe all of them. So yeah, again, imagining a solo. It was a good solo I was hearing in my head. All right, one more thing, y'all. So in terms of like, say you want to play straight eighths or like a Brazilian groove, which we're called upon to do frequently in jazz, and I think Brazilian music. I was watching some video when I was lying in bed. I think it might have been Kiko Loureiro from Megadeth talking about it in his Rick Beato interview, just how much of a part of jazz, how closely fused Brazilian popular music, bossa novas, and Milton Nascimento, baiões, and just the music of Brazil is with the jazz in the United States and in the world. So it's good to be a little bit aware of it. And I, as my go-to when I'm trying to teach people how to play like bossa nova rhythm, João Gilberto is obviously the man. And there's a great video online that I linked to it in my Girl from Ipanema video for Jazz Guitar Today. And it's great. He's playing desafinado, and what I like about it is you can just hear the basic rhythm in a very kind of simplified, or at least consistent version before he starts changing it, because he always changes it up and does really like genius things with rhythm and with his voice and all that stuff. So basically, let me pull this track here. And it's a drag because all the tracks on here that do bossa nova, the bass is syncopated. And really, one of the primary things I tell guitar students, like if you're playing Ipanema, don't syncopate. Don't syncopate the bass. The bass is not syncopated. The bass is like 100% boom, boom, boom. And syncopation is in the guitar, in the higher voice. Basic rhythm is like a partito alto, and I just try to imitate what I hear in those João Gilberto records, and also incorporating the kind of voicings that I like and some of the techniques of longs and shorts and letting certain things sustain, because I'm trying to do it my own way at this point. So let's see what happens if I play the track. This is If You Never Come to Me, Inútil Paisagem, which I love, and they syncopate the bass, but what are you going to do? So this is an A flat. Let's see what happens. So that's a whole lot of information and sort of a deep dive into my process of how I comp in different situations. But again, the overarching principles are do no harm. Like, you don't want to ruin the solo by overplaying or playing the wrong chords. That could do some harm, not knowing the song. And then there's some basic rhythms, like I talked about, that Charleston and that Red Garland. I mean, shoot, quarter notes, a la Freddie Green, so that's important. If you're doing a bossa nova, take a look at what Joao Gilberto does and study the partito alto a bit. And there's a lot of ways to do it, but that's what I like to do. And my favorite examples, again, Scofield on So Near, So Far, and Herbie on 1964 concert. It's also great. I like Kurt Rosenwinkel's comping on I Wish I Knew, that Chris Cheek record. And there's a million albums, but I like to have real specific examples for the students. So anyway, I hope that was informative, and take care, everybody.